Hey, y'all. How about a fist bump today? That'd be good. Fist bump. There you go. Is that a high five too? Or is that a high five? Fist bump. Okay. Well, whichever. Like to switch it up a little bit, you know? Well, welcome to my clubhouse. I kind of figured out that you who are still with me watching day after day, it's sort of like we're in a club. I think when people realize or have realized that I'm not just a nomad channel, I'm not just a van life and I talk about van life and I'm out traveling around or a travel channel, I think they've left. And I think they have. So we're like this little exclusive club. So welcome. And if you want to be a new member, come on in. Yeah. I think you all get me and you get my humor. I know. Well, I am very happy today. And why? I don't know. I think I'm just a happy person. But today is an Irish day. I'm feeling a little Irish today. And I will talk about the Irish and why on the other side of this. So don't go anywhere. And again, watch it all the way to the end. Okay? Oh, and please subscribe. Okay? Let's go. Okay, so Irish. Oh my gosh, I love the Irish. Well, I'm Irish. I am Irish. I'm only part Irish. On my dad's side, Irish, Scottish, and English. I mean, yeah, it's all that little area right there. And then my mother's side is over on the other side, a German and some French. Yeah, mostly German, but French. Achtung, yeah. And I did live in Germany for 2 years. My husband was in the service. He was one of the last of the draftees from Vietnam. They weren't sending any of the guys to Vietnam anymore. There were still men over there, but they weren't really sending any more over there. But they were still, the draft was still going. And he was not happy. He was not happy about that. Well, we were both very young, and he went there first. Well, he went to basic training and all that. And then he went to Germany. And about a month later, I got to fly over there. Woo, I flew over there. That was exciting. That was my first major plane trip. I mean, seriously. The trip going across the Atlantic Ocean was my first. And I remember we stopped at Greenland to pick up gas, pick up fuel, and then got dropped off at Luxembourg. And then him and his buddies came and picked me up. And I was in Germany for 2 years. That was a great experience, a great memories. And someday maybe I will tell you about them. A lot happened. And it was during the 70s. So, oh my gosh, there was a lot of different things going on than there are now. A whole lot of drugs going on, right? Well, anyway, so I did live in Germany. I have never been to Ireland. So I did watch this documentary. And the reason I want to mention this documentary, excuse me, my voice is a little scratchy. Want some coffee? Do you, huh? It's a little bit left. I'll wipe it off for you. There you go. There you go. There's yours. Cheers. It's still very warm. Okay, so the reason I watched this documentary, and it was called, what was the name of it? It was called, I got some notes over there. I mean, I don't want to forget anything, right? Blow-ins. It was called Blow-ins. If you have Prime Video, which is with Amazon, it's called Blow-ins. I thought it wasn't the most exciting documentary, but I did enjoy it. And it was about Dingle Island, which is, they called it an island of an island because, I mean, Ireland is an island, but here's this little island off to the side, Dingle Island. And it was just very endearing. And they talked about how wonderful it is. 30% of the population there are foreigners. it's that wonderful. They go to visit and then they don't want to leave. So they go back home, sell everything, and then go to Dingle Island. Now, they call them the people who literally are the locals. You have to be at least 10 generations of being settled in Dingle Island before they call you a local. You can't just be a local. They call them blow-ins. They kind of blew in. And it was just really, there are all kinds of people there, people with different accents. A lot of Americans live there. And you have Australians, you have the English, yeah. And it's just fascinating. And one of the reasons why did I want to watch that? Well, I got the little Irish in me, I wanted to find out about it. But have you ever noticed, I've been really looking up the documentaries right now. And it's just a guilty pleasure when in between I'm writing now and I'm doing filming and still getting my daily chores done. I do have to clean my van every day, by the way, which is a little bit of van life. Okay, let's talk van life. I have to shake out my towels. I have to wipe things down, put things back where they go so that I can be comfortable. Okay. But so I'm looking at these documentaries, and most of them are about murder and crime and sin and oh my gosh, and history. But a lot of times what I'm noticing is, have you noticed this too? Let me know in comments. If you notice that a lot of history, what we talk about, is really not, it's very negative stuff, right? I've always heard that history is written by the victors, the people who were victorious in that story. So a lot of times it takes years for the truth to come out. And even if it does come out, it doesn't really, they don't like to change history very much and talk about that. So I've been looking for some really nice, wholesome things that are going to make me feel good, right? And really is nice. Although I noticed at the end of the blow-in, it's called blow-ins. That's what really sparked my interest. It's like, blow-ins? What is this? Blow-ins? That then they start talking about, at the very end, they start talking about the negative things about Dingle Island. And of course, one would be, it's such a small island. It's just so charming. And the people are charming. But, there's no big hospitals. People have died. They couldn't get to the other island, the bigger island in Dublin, and they couldn't get to a good hospital, and some of them died of appendicitis and things like that. So there's living in a very small town or a very small island can have its downsides too, but I was kind of like, oh, here we go with the negative, and they do say that things are changing right now. They're building more apartments, and actually on this little island, more on high rise. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you watch this documentary, you'll see that I don't think a high rise could be there. But it's very charming. And I just, if you want to watch something that isn't full of violence and things like that. Now, the last documentary, I did talk about the Tylenol were murders. And one of you left a comment and you said, I was horrible. And I do believe that the person actually worked for Johnson & Johnson and he was disgruntled. That is not true. He was they believed they never could convict him. Today he would have been convicted, but I guess back then, or even 40 years later, see if it was 82, 40 years, that would still be, I don't know why they couldn't do it. Well, his name was James Lewis, and let me just give you a little background. He was an adopted child by a couple of a church-going, Bible-believing couple, they said. And that was the only child they had. James Lewis was remembered by the school people, the teachers, that he was just weird. He was weird. He was, I guess, they said that he was very cruel to his adoptive parents. He was not nice. I mean, he was actually physically cruel to them. Well, he was not a good citizen. I think he was bright, but in a very evil way. Okay, well, basically what happened was he actually tried to extort. He wrote an extortion letter to Johnson and Johnson and said, if you don't pay me this amount of money, I'm going to ruin you. Okay, but they still, I can't imagine they couldn't use it. Okay, well, what happened was he did have a daughter, I believe they said, and there was she had a bad heart, and there was something, a stint in there or something, and there was something in there that Johnson and Johnson made for the medical community, and he said that that's why she had a heart attack, because it was faulty. But the doctors went over and over and said no. She had blocked, there was something wrong with her heart. Okay. And so he hated Johnson and Johnson, and he devised this, that he murdered people by putting cyanide in those capsules. Well, you can't just I guess Johnson & Johnson then was sued by the people, the families, because they could have put that outer seal on them. In fact, that was used by other companies for medicine, to have tamper-proof and safety-proof. But they thought that was too costly. Well, okay. That's what really happened. It's a long documentary. If you want to watch it, it's called Painkiller, right? And that's the name of the Tylenol murder story. And it has it's long. It's almost 5 hours long. There's 5 or 6 episodes, And but he was never tried for that. He did go to prison for 10 years for the extortion letter, but they could never totally, I think what happened was they went in and they took stuff without doing a Miranda rights thing, and they couldn't use that for all this time. They couldn't use that. So, okay. So that was a very dastardly documentary. I did want to report it because it really was something in my memory. It's oh my gosh, yeah, that was pretty cool. But the blow-ins, it's an easygoing. If I find more easygoing, happier ending kind of documentaries, I'll let you know, because I do like documentaries. I like to learn things. That's why I like to offer to you and to show you things. It would be fun to go to Ireland. It really would. Okay, now I'm going to talk about chastity belts. I think this is the first actual subject that has nothing to do with van life. I can talk about attitudes and doing this and that, and you can say, well, this is part of van life because we have to have good attitudes, stuff like that. But I don't know what you could connect a chastity belt with van life. So why am I talking about this? This is always kind of fascinated with this has always fascinated me. Yeah. And I remember hearing about them when I was maybe a teenager, and I'm like, a chastity belt? What in the world? And they were supposedly made of metal. And the thing that went between a woman's legs was, logic told me that this has to be impossible, or the women died. And I really felt bad if that was really true, because the metal rubbing, that would have caused sores and bleeding, and they probably would have died. Oh my gosh. Okay, I hate to talk about something creepy. But then I heard way back that there was no such, they never found a chastity belt ever from that period. They never found one, and they just realized that they really weren't available. They really were false, that they didn't exist. Okay. So I found a site that says the truth about chastity belts. And it says, according to popular mythology, chastity belts with locks in the front were used in the 1100s as a result of the Crusades. The Crusaders said they wanted chastity belts on their female partners. Okay. But despite the myth, no such contraptions existed in the 1100s, nor would they for several hundred years. Well, let's go. I did not know this. The first mention of chastity belts seems to have been in the 16th century Renaissance poetry. So Asking a woman to wear a chastity belt was a Renaissance poet's way of saying, let us be true to each other. Okay, so it's really just poetry. That's how it started, the chastity belt. To be chaste, keep yourself for this man, okay? Now, the first real chastity belts, this is horrible, weren't created until the 1800s. And they weren't for keeping women from straying sexually. The first chastity belts appear to have been crude devices they don't show, designed to keep children from, well, they use the word playing with themselves. Oh my gosh. We were still in the dark ages, weren't we? Now, I know that's funny, but there may have also been another version of chastity belts during the 1800s. This was the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and women were beginning to enter the workforce. There was no protections against sexual harassment, especially since they all wore these dresses. Of course, they had pantaloons under them, I guess. And sexual harassment was rampant at that time. Some women may have devised their own versions of chastity belts to keep from being raped or molested in the workplace. Okay. Now, and then we come to where probably the talk of chastity belts even came from. In modern, in everyday. I don't know, people talk about that every day, but you know what I mean. The most popular use of chastity belts is probably today in the BDSM community. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They say it's a chastity belt is a bit of an oxymoron, given now chastity is not exactly the goal. Okay, so that's my just kind of oddball throwing something out there. I really did think about that. It really worried me. I thought, are you kidding that people would really do that to the women? I mean, by the time they got home, they would probably be dead because metal in there and it gets wet because you have to go to the bathroom and stuff. It worried me. I was very worried about stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, I used to think about that. One more thing I want to mention. Okay, there is, I've got these little subjects here. So we're in the club. You're in my clubhouse, okay? I did get a comment last night, and it didn't bother me, so don't ignore them. I do. But I do think about these things in human behavior. So it's good for me because I'm interested in human behavior. Like, why would somebody put a chastity belt on their wife? Things like that. Why? I want to know why. Well, the person said, I'm just trying to figure out why you're laughing at the Tylenol murder story during the Tylenol. And it really did make me think. And I thought, well, I do laugh. I do laugh here and there because I'm a very happy person. But it made me think of two things. One is the person who wrote that is probably a more severe character person. They're more severe. They seem that looks like I gotta get my lights powered up. They're out. They're more severe. They were probably brought up more severe. And I was not brought up that way. I really wasn't. I was brought up, my dad was hilarious, and we did a lot of chuckling in my house growing up. So laughter was there. My mother was a little bit more severe, but she was not overly bad. I would have loved to change a few things, but that's in the past. But my dad was very funny. He was not a severe person. That would be the worst. That would be the most wrong word I'd ever associate with my father, is being severe. He was very funny. He was very kind and very jolly. He was very nice. I guess he was very popular at his work. People just loved him at work. He worked in the same place since he was 16 till he retired. And okay, so there's that. And I think when people come from a more severe upbringing, that they're more apt to like, why do you laugh? Why do you laugh? Some people don't laugh as much as I do. I love to laugh, and I love people to make me laugh. It's more fun. I think it makes life fun. What do you think? What do you think? Let me know. But here's another thing too that I thought of. The Tylenol murders did not affect me in an adverse way. I found it interesting, but it did not affect me. I didn't know anybody that died from it. And so, and I wasn't so much laughing at the people. I was laughing at the absurdity of it. It's like, are you kidding me? I can find humor in almost anything, but I wasn't laughing at people dying. I was laughing at the absurdity that people actually do stuff like this. And it did bring about a memory in my life when I did hear about the murders, and I was in a good place. I was in a good place. I had 2 small children. I was in the mom thing. I was that was my season in life. I was in the mother thing, and times were good, and my husband was still alive, and times were good. So it made me feel good thinking about that time, probably watching the news. But here's something else. It made me think about, like, what is the most, as if you're my age, what is the most severe thing that happened as we were younger? And I would say, in many ways, because it was the end of the innocence, was the killing of John F. Kennedy. I can tell you that even there were, for years, up until just a few years ago, that even thinking about it would bring tears to my eyes. There was no laughing going on with that. Oh my gosh. It really could still bring tears, and I would become so sad. And because it affected me, and it was a time in my life where it was very, it affected my growth as a teenager, as a young adult, not quite yet a teenager. And so, psychologically it was tough. But I started reading about getting rid of the past and why do certain triggers. And the most triggering was the John F. Kennedy murders, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. And there was I forget how it went, but I really did try to think of it and just let go of the emotion of it and just look at it as a learning experience. But to let the emotion part go, just take it and throw it into the abyss. And then thinking about all the aspects of that, and I remember, and then thinking about his funeral. It was televised. When I was a child, I mean, I had snot running out. I was a wet, hot, snotty mess. I was like, yeah. I mean, it affected me very deeply. And I don't remember any of my other family really crying that time, but I think it was the age. I think it was like 11, maybe 12. Oh, yeah, very, very emotional. And so, but I can think about it now. And that reminded me of this comment that I can now let things go. I don't get so emotional over things. And I'm not emotional over that comment. It actually made me look inward, and it made me realize that we all have been brought up differently. We're all different. And it's okay. Like I said in the beginning, you watch me almost every day. Some of you watch me every single day. And I try to be entertaining. I try to be interesting. Because this is almost like, this helps me. This is my therapy too. And because I love you guys, and I like to hear from you, and I love to offer information. This is where my skill lies. And we're all different. And if you get me, you get me. If you don't, I'm not going to force you to be here, But if you want to stay and stick with it, I laugh a lot because that's my nature. And I laugh, and I can look at that. I laugh at myself so much. It's great. You all know I do. I mean, I can find anything that I do hilarious. It's like, why did I do that? Oh my God. I don't take myself too seriously, because I know that at some point, this is all going to be over. here on earth anyways. I'll be there, but here on earth, this is all going to be over. I'm not going to be in this body anymore. And this body is getting, it's moving along, it's aging, and you almost have to I think when you hit your 70s, you have to not take things seriously. You just have to laugh at yourself. Because this is a funny situation, We were young once we were young, and now we're not, right? So we have to laugh at ourselves, and I don't take myself seriously. So that is why I'm sure that whoever wrote that comment probably isn't watching this right now, because of the chastity belt thing. So, but we all have to understand that we're all different, and we have to accept that. And we still have to go on loving each other no matter what. We have to just offer love and forgiveness and not take everything so seriously. It's all going to work out in the end, isn't it, everybody? Right. Okay. Well, there's my little spiel for the day to end with. I do appreciate you guys. I do love you. So, please subscribe, and if you want to give me a gift, I like to mention it. I got a birthday coming up in just like 3 days. If you want to give me a small gift, I've got all kinds of amounts. Go on minivanlee.com, type or click on gifts. It's an easy website to maneuver, and it's a very safe website, just like ordering something from Amazon. I mean, it's the same as anything. There's still some of you that are afraid to do that, so that's okay. I order from Amazon all the time. And go ahead and click on gifts, and I've got all amounts on there. So I really appreciate it if you do, and I appreciate all you that did. Okay, till tomorrow, I'll have some new stuff. Oh, yeah. I'll come up with some things that I think about, things that I see online, and that I think, oh my gosh, that is so interesting and amusing. Okay? I love you guys. See you tomorrow. Be here. Okay? Okay.